So I was catching up on your social media the other day, and man, one particular post about this customer interaction really caught my eye. Someone actually questioned your tech skills, like seriously, just because of your age.
Yeah, it was interesting to say the least.
Right. It really got me thinking, though, about this whole idea of expertise and, well, how old is too old to be a tech whiz? And it seems like you've got some pretty strong opinions on that, so I figured, why not deep dive into this whole thing? Unpack it a bit.
I'm always up for a good deep dive.
Perfect, because I think there are probably a lot of people out there who can relate to this, feeling like they're being judged or dismissed because of their age.
Absolutely, it's a really pervasive issue.
So, to kind of set the stage for everyone, you shared this quote where someone implied that your age somehow disqualified you from being a tech expert, which I gotta say is a pretty wild assumption,
It was a bit jarring, yeah.
to put it mildly. But what really struck me was how you handled it. Your response was brilliant. You basically said, tech information doesn't care about my age. It completely flipped the script. So walk us through that moment. What was going through your mind?
In that moment, I think it just hit me that this person's perception of me was so limited, so rooted in this stereotype that tech is for young people. But the truth is, information is information. It's accessible to anyone who's willing to learn, regardless of their
Ah,
age.
the internet doesn't have an age
Right.
limit, right?
Exactly. So instead of getting defensive, I wanted to shift the focus to something more empowering. The idea that anyone can become tech savvy if they're open to learning.
And you know what? You didn't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. You shared about how you've embraced all these new technologies, Google search, ChatGPT. You really dove in head first. And that's what makes your perspective so powerful. You're not just saying it, you're living it.
Well, I think it's crucial to practice what you preach,
Mhm.
right? For me, it's not just about keeping up with the latest trends. It's about proving to myself
Yeah.
that learning never stops.
And that's something I think we often forget. It's like we hit a certain age and suddenly we're supposed to believe that our brains are full. Like there's no more room for anything new.
It's this weird mental block that a lot of us have. We don't question our ability to learn things like, I don't know, how to tie our shoes or how to drive at any age.
That's such a good point. We do those things without a second thought. But then when it comes to something like technology or, frankly, anything new, we suddenly put these limitations on ourselves.
And there's actually a scientific basis for why our brains are wired this way.
Right.
It's called neuroplasticity. And it basically means that our brains are constantly forming new connections, regardless of our age.
Okay, so our brains are primed for this, which means the real roadblock isn't our capacity to learn, but our willingness, right? It's the belief that we can.
Precisely. It's that initial hurdle of, can I really do this,
Yeah.
that often holds people back.
So, how do you suggest we overcome that? Like, how do we shift our mindset to embrace learning, especially in areas where we might feel intimidated or honestly a little out of our depth?
Well, first off, I think it's about reframing those feelings of intimidation. It's like that feeling you get before tackling a challenging puzzle or maybe learning a new recipe, right?
Hmm?
There's a little hesitation, maybe even a little fear, but also there's this excitement for the potential reward.
Totally. That sense of accomplishment when you finally figure it out, there's nothing quite like it.
Exactly. And
So,
the thing is, this whole idea of lifelong learning, it's not just about tech, it applies to everything. Think about fields like leadership or art or even, cooking these age-based assumptions. They can pop up anywhere.
it's true. You see it all the time. And what I find really inspiring about your story is that this approach, this openness to learning, it's transferable. It's like a superpower you can take with you wherever you go.
I love that analogy. It's like a universal skill set.
Exactly. So, for everyone listening, for those of you who resonated with this conversation, with the idea that learning has no age limit, I want to leave you with a little challenge.
I'm intrigued. What's the challenge?
I want you to think about one thing, a skill, a subject, a new way of thinking, something you've been curious about but maybe hesitant to explore, maybe because you think it's too late, you're too old, or whatever that little voice in your head might be telling you. And then here's the real challenge: ignore that voice. Take that first step. You never know what you might discover.
Now that's a challenge I can get behind.